4,228 miles, 66 days, 10 states. Just a few of the numbers from author Dan McDonald's Ride Across the Nation. He recounts the journey in the book, I Like to Ride. Well, if you're doing that much of it, Dan, I hope you like it. Kayla Thomas is outside Scripps Studios with Dan and the folks who made the trip possible, his family. Kayla, would you introduce us?
Hi, of course I will introduce you. I've got Dan McDonald here and his entire family, some of which you will see immediately next to me and some of whom you won't because they are running free, enjoying the nice weather. You brought your family with us today. Tell us who's here.
So my wife, Brianne McDonald, my mother, Paula McDonald, my son, Aaron, and my other son, Connor.
So we've got Aaron and Connor here. We're just going to let them run free during this interview. I might bring them over. We might ask them a few questions. We might just let them run around outside. You decided to ride your bike across the country. Please explain why.
Yeah, so I worked in IT and I did a lot of traveling, and I actually ended up in one of the towns where the route goes through. There's a route called the Adventure Cycling TransAmerican Bicycle Trail. And I had no idea. I have been bicycling for many years since I was a kid. I didn't know there was an actual route where people rode across the United States. So I went in for dinner one night while I was out working, and I saw a bicycle that was just loaded with all this camping gear and this great stuff, and there's a gentleman inside that looked like he was just loving life, and I was like, you know what, I want a piece of that. So I did some research on it, found out about the trail, bought the maps, talked my wife into going along with us, and there we went.
Okay, Brianne, what did you think of when Dan said, hey, I'm going to ride my bike across the country. Why don't you come with?
Well, actually, first he was going to do it by himself, and I said no, absolutely not. And then we talked about it more, and I think about 2 years later, he finally convinced me to go, and we all went together. So that was the deal, that if he was going to do it, we all had to go together, and we were going to be his support system. So I learned about SAG support, which is the support that the people do that aren't actually riding, and I packed up the camper and went.
Okay, so how did the logistics work? Because what did you do during the day, and then what was your family doing at that same time?
Yeah, so in the morning I'd wake up about 4 a.m. in the morning, and I'd get the bike ready, do some maintenance on it, and get all my gear packed up, and then I would leave. And when my mother joined us about halfway through, I'd have breakfast with her before I'd go, but then I would head out. And then Brianne and the boys would adventure around the area. Then they'd pack up camp, and then I would meet them for lunch halfway through the ride at some destination that we'd picked out on the map. We had no cell phone service, so we had to pick a spot where we would meet. And then we would meet there for lunch, and then we would coordinate where we were going to spend the rest of the day. They would go out and do their adventure. I would ride to the end point, and they'd have camp set up for me, and then we would spend the evening together.
Why did you really wanted to go out and seek nature? So what were some of the things that you saw and experienced, and what were some of the hard parts as well?
Yeah, so I got to see the major mountain ranges in America. I got to ride over them on the bicycle, which was awesome.
That doesn't sound awesome. That sounds hard.
Well, those were the best days, actually. At first, I was fearful of the days where I'd have to summit those mountain ranges. But I found that those were my favorite days because we would base camp at the bottom, the night before. I'd get up really early on summit when there's light traffic, and the rest of the day was all downhill. It was just beautiful, so I loved those days. But you have to work yourself into the mountain ranges. You have to pay to get into them with your legs. So it's actually harder, I think, to get into the mountain range than it is to actually summit it.
So how long did the whole trip take?
So it took us 66 days, and that didn't include driving to the East Coast. And we visited family in North Carolina before we went up to the start point in Yorktown, Virginia. But we started the day clock in Yorktown, Virginia on a Sunday, and we went 66 days through. And then we stopped the clock, and we spent some time over on the West Coast and had some fun over there, too, and saw some other national forests and things on the way back. So.
Well, Connor swung over here, so I'm going to take the opportunity to get down here and talk to you, buddy. What was this trip like with your family? Was it fun? Was it exciting?
It was fun.
What was your favorite part of the trip?
Seeing family.
What were some of the fun things that you did with your family?
Play games.
I love playing games. Okay, Brianne, this is, if my husband came to me and told me he was going to do this and that I was going to be in a camper with my children and my mother-in-law, who I love, for 66 days. I don't know what my reaction would have been. So how awesome are you that you did this, and what was the experience like for you?
It was an amazing experience. I had really wanted to travel, and I really wanted to give the boys that experience too, of just throughout the U.S., not just some of our more local trips that we've done with them, but just to really show them a part of the United States that all of us have not seen. So, and that included national parks, because I'm a big national park fan. So I really wanted to see as many as we could, and just as much as we could. My favorite part was that we actually got to see some black bear cubs, and that was all in Virginia, so I could have been done in Virginia, but Dan really wanted to go, so we went.
What was the most difficult part?
I think the most difficult part, to be honest, would be trying to find things to do for the boys to keep them busy on the days that it was just downpouring, or we were in parts of the country that there was less things to do, like so no major parks or anything like that. So we found libraries and we found playgrounds and we did our best. So that was probably the most difficult, but also a challenge in a good way, I guess, to try to test me to see what I could come up with, I guess.
All right, Brianna, I'm going to excuse you and Paula and the boys. I'm going to pull Dan over here. You guys run and play. Have some fun in this lovely weather that we're having today. You brought your bike in today.
Yeah.
Can you show me some of what you brought with you to make this journey possible?
Yeah, definitely. So I had some panniers in the back here. These are totally waterproof. I picked these out because I knew I was going to ride through storms and some bad inclement weather. So they were awesome. And they also ended up protecting me from a dog in Kentucky that attacked. So it was nice that he took a hold of the panniers instead of my legs. So I have a solar panel so I could charge my phone throughout the day.
So that's what the book is sitting on top, and we'll talk about the book a little bit more. This is a solar panel here.
Yeah,
so what does it do?
So it charges this battery pack, lithium-ion battery pack, and I use that to charge either my cell phone or any other device that I have on me, MP3 player, which I really hardly use, so mostly the cell phone. So that way, if I do get out there and there's no way to hook my phone up and it dies, I can recharge it off of this. So it was I've used it a couple times, it was very convenient, and then when we ran out of cell phone service, it kind of lost its use.
Did you get bored?
So I never got bored, that's the crazy part. And I think when you're by yourself for so long, day in and day out, just pedaling a bike 8 hours a day, your mind starts to just wander and come up with things to do. The scenery's always changing, so you've always got something to see and do. You can stop off at a cafe somewhere if you're in a setting that's more urban, or if you're in a rural setting, you can just stop off in a field and just look out at it and just enjoy what's out there to look at. So it's just, I never got bored. But I overused my left knee in the Appalachian Mountains, and I did have a bit of an injury that we worked through, but it ended up healing itself, so it worked out. Yeah.
All right, well, the whole story is told right here in this book, I Like to Ride, A TransAmerican Journey. Read about the IT guy turned adventurer. Thanks for bringing the whole family out. GoSeekNature.com. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You bet. Mary, we'll send it back to you.
Thank you, Kayla, very much. Such fun, a fun family, and those kids running around.